Hi everyone, welcome to today's webinar on hazardous waste disposal and opportunities to save time and money. My name's James. I'm the webinar event coordinator at Triumvirate Environmental, and I'll be your moderator for today's event. Before we get started, I'd like to give you a brief overview on what the webinar is going to entail as we run through a few housekeeping items. As you can see here, everyone's microphones will be turned off for the entirety of the webinar, but you can communicate via the questions tab in your webinar panel on the right-hand side of your screen. So you can use that to type questions in throughout the webinar, and we will respond to any that we don't get to after the webinar. We'll make sure we follow up with everyone. We're going to try something a little bit new today, which is we're going to take a Q&A break, a short break about halfway through. So if you have any questions on the earlier slides, feel free to type them in, and we'll try and get to them so we don't have to hold off completely till the end. Also, please keep in mind, this is important, you will receive a copy of the slide deck and the webinar recording, and that will be emailed to you tomorrow morning. I'm pleased to introduce today's speaker, Eric Feraldi. Eric is an account manager at Triumvirate Environmental, where he oversees the day-to-day activities of various clients to ensure best-in-class compliance and sustainability. Eric works closely with each client to understand their expectations and service needs, and then coordinates TEI's service efforts to ensure that they are met. Eric earned a BS in Environmental Science from the University of Rhode Island, and with that, I'll turn things over to Eric.
Thank you, James. All right, guys, we'll dive right in here. So, key message here: how to use regulations and waste minimization options to improve your waste transportation and your waste disposal process to achieve organizational goals. So basically, who is this for? So firms looking to minimize waste generation, whether it be through recycling, reuse, or standard reduction practices. And maybe your current provider does not offer waste minimization options. It's also for firms looking to reduce waste disposal costs. This is usually in line with lowering your bottom line and sustainability goals. Transportation costs may make up the bulk of your invoices. And then firms looking for recycling and sustainability options. You'd be amazed at what we could actually recycle in 2016. And maybe your current providers don't have any recycling options. So we'll start off with a quick poll question here. What is the greatest challenge when it comes to disposing of your hazardous waste?
And we'll give everyone a few more seconds to answer that, and we'll share the results. Okay, it looks like we have a majority here. It's pretty close. 25% selected minimizing waste, 23 finding sustainable disposal options, 24 transportation and disposal costs, 17% compliance. So it's pretty even throughout, Eric.
All right, sounds good. Basically, what are we going to learn today? We'll learn how to reduce your overall transportation costs. We'll learn how to set up a compliant storage area for your waste. How a waste minimization assessment leads to more disposal options. And how leveraging compliance and waste tracking software can increase organization and efficiency. So basically, this is why we're different. What others in the industry might say, a common theme out there is ship out waste as soon as it is generated. So basically, as soon as the drum is full, you call for disposal of the drum. Mixing wastes will reduce the number of waste streams generated. This is also known as commingling waste. Say you have a waste stream of acetone and dichloromethane, and you also have a waste stream of acetone and sulfuric acid. Combining waste into one drum, because both have flammable properties, saves space. And then the whole the burn it idea is best. I want my waste incinerated, but we can get into some options out there other than straight old incineration. And then on the right, what we say instead: proper storage and segregation will reduce the need to ship more frequently, which saves time and money. Again, commingled waste streams often have more than one hazard type, which makes waste more costly to dispose of and reduces the recyclability of the material. And then having multiple outlets for waste can lower cost, treatment or reuse of waste, offer viable low-cost solutions, and there's reuse, recycling, waste to energy, stabilization, and so on. Quick agenda for today. We'll start with using regulations to your advantage. So just a quick, this is by no means a full overview of the regulations. I'm just trying to pull out useful aspects to help you get you thinking of ways to save time and money. So a little bit of background. Regulations do allow for storage options. You'll learn how to use them to your advantage. While they may seem strict and daunting, regulations can help you reduce waste disposal costs and improve logistic efforts. So a little background on the regulations. I do want to point out that we based this presentation primarily on small quantity generators. Not to say the points we bring up will not help large quantity or conditionally exempt generators. We wanted to focus on small quantity because that seems to be the bulk of the clientele. So current regulations for small quantity generators allow for 2,200 pounds generated per month. That's per month. So how much is 2,200 pounds roughly? 455s of waste. Obviously it varies in waste type, but usually 455s will keep you under that 2,200 pounds generated. And then just if you're a conditionally exempt small quantity generator per the EPA, you can produce 1 quart of P-listed waste and still be a small quantity generator, and you can also produce less than 220 pounds per month of regular hazardous waste. And you have an indefinite time to store that waste up until you reach 2,200 pounds. Then you have to ship out, and of course, large quantity generators, if you produce more than 2,200 pounds in a month or greater than 2.2 pounds of P-listed material, which is that very toxic material, you have 90 days to ship out your waste. So the biggest thing we hear about when we conduct shipments, I don't want to go over the waste limit for small quantity generator. This goes back to the 2,200 pounds. And remember, it's not the weight that you're shipping, it's the weight you're generating per month. So how can we use regulations to your advantage? So again, the common misconception is that you can only ship 2,200 pounds a month to remain a small quantity generator. In actuality, you can only produce 2,200 pounds of hazardous waste a month, or up to 2.2 pounds of that P-listed material, again, which is that highly toxic waste. And then if you're a small quantity generator, it's 220 pounds per month. Regulations for a small quantity allow for a 180-day storage limit. So essentially, you can ship out 13,200 pounds of hazardous waste and remain in the small quantity generator category. And we'll touch base on more of that. And if you're a large quantity, you produce more than 2,200 pounds per month or more than 2.2 pounds of P-listed, you have up to 90 days to store that waste. So the first thing we recommend is obviously setting up a storage area. This helps in many ways. So basically any area of your facility can be used to store hazardous waste. It doesn't have to be a back room with a door. Delineation tape or fencing can be placed anywhere in your facility. It does have to be a secured area with authorized entry only. Required signage can be posted. This is MAA signs, emergency contacts, no smoking signs, inspection logs, and so on. Spill decks and other spill countermeasures can be installed. Alternatives are outdoor storage areas. Can be placed on the property. They're self-contained and can be used to store empty drums as well. And then spill prevention and ventilation are already installed into the external or outdoor storage areas. So how do we reduce your transportation costs by storing waste longer? Well, by storing your waste longer, as the regulations allow, you reduce the number of times a truck is coming to your facility. So basically, each pickup often has a pickup fee, fuel surcharge, insurance surcharge, and driver time associated with it. So is the truck coming for 1 or 2 drums, or are they coming to maximize your disposal needs? If you have the ability to find a storage area within your facility, you can store waste longer, and the overall cost per drum will decrease as well. And a couple things to look at is also, when you're looking at storing waste for longer, look at your container sizes. You're storing waste in 5, 20, or 55 gallons. So if a 5-gallon jug or pail gets full, are you calling for a waste pickup? Or can you jump to a bigger container to store the waste longer? So just one example here. Say you produce different waste streams at various intervals, but you usually only have a drum ready for disposal at a rate of 1 per week. And it could be of various different waste types. The option 1, which seems to be like a traditional option, when a drum of waste is full, you call for a pickup. The company comes out for just that 1 drum. And then you're invoiced for the trans, surcharge, driver time, and then obviously the cost of the drum. But another viable option out there is, let's say that same drum is ready for pickup. Instead of calling for disposal, you take the drum to the storage area, label and date the drum, and you store it. Knowing your generator status, whether it be large, small, or conditionally exempt, you may have 180 days to hold on to the drum, or 6 months. Again, that's for a small quantity generator. You also have a new area for drum storage that can hold the drums safely, compliantly, out of the way. You have effectively reduced your pickups, invoices, and charges from 24 in that same period. Again, that's once a week for 6 months, down to 1. So the drum costs may be the same, but you will effectively cut transportation costs and other fees significantly by storing your waste. All right, so we'll move on to the second portion of this, which is waste minimization and recycling options. So basically, what is a waste minimization assessment? It's basically analysis of every waste stream produced, whether it be production, R&D, your heating and cooling wastes for the facility. The waste is followed through its entire journey, both upstream and downstream. That means before it goes into the process, while it's going through the process, and then while it's determined to be a waste. The goal is to identify different waste options and whether commingled waste can be separated for more efficient and less costly disposal. By completing a waste minimization assessment, you can identify how each waste is generated, collected, stored, and shipped. So basically, essentially, we come to your facility with our experts. We walk through the facility looking at each waste stream, collect info on the waste, how it's collected, how it's managed, MSDSs or SDSs of the waste. We then look into alternative disposal options through our network and return to your facility with a full presentation. How does one conduct a waste minimization assessment? Well, you can start by answering a few questions. Do you have multiple streams that can be commingled? Are you commingling waste as a space-saving, cost-saving purpose? Or are you concerned about material thrown into the dumpster? And this is more from a recycling aspect. Are you throwing away anything that has recyclable value? And again, you want to review your MSDSs or SDSs, as they're called now, for chemical compatibility whenever you're commingling waste, obviously. And then speak with your hazardous, non-hazardous waste service provider, see if they offer this service. And many times the service is a free service. So waste minimization and recycling options. This is where we get into what the options are and what common recyclable or reuse materials are. So the overall goal of this type of assessment is to identify materials that can be reused, reclaimed, and or recycled. Again, 2016, modern technology has multiple outlets for waste streams that can be reused and recycled. And then we'll just run through some quick examples of what's commonly reclaimed and recycled. So obviously oils, motor oil, hydraulic oil, cutting oils, can be filtered and then resold as off-specification used oil. plastic materials. We're not talking about your mixed stream recycling from, say, Coke bottles or food packaging. We're talking about industrial plastics, whether they be runners, plastic scrap, or plastic purge, and then solvents. So pretty much every solvent has some kind of reclaim, reuse, depending on its purity. Common solvents that we see are MEK, toluene, acetone, and dichloromethane. Like I said, they have gone a long way with recycling and reuse of this type of material. And then a big one here is bio-waste. You're probably thinking, how can you recycle bio-waste? We'll actually get into that in a little bit, but the main theme of that is most bio-waste has a certain plastic percentage with it. And the plastic is able to be reclaimed and treated to render it non-infectious, and then put into a process that actually makes plastic lumber. Next, we have solid grit material. This could be sandblasting grit or vibratory grit. Most of it has construction uses. But this also includes non-hatch soils while I'm thinking of it. And these can all be used in various road construction apparatuses. And then metals and e-waste, your standard metals from metal scrap, and then your e-waste being computers, TVs, phones, etc. I will move on to just talking about compliance and waste tracking software. This might be new to some of you.
All right, and let's take a quick break there, Eric, and we'll pause for a couple questions that we got earlier. So, one question comes in from Wojtek, and he just wants to clarify the maximum amount that you can ship out at one time and still remain an LQG. How about that?
So LQGs, since you're producing more than 2,200 pounds of waste in a month, there really is no maximum to ship out, because you can hold your waste for 90 days and you're already producing more than 2,200 pounds. It's basically how much you are willing to store, and then limitations might be size of trucks. There's various size trucks out there, and there's from small little micros to B trucks to tractor trailer trucks. So logistically, as much as you can store within that 90 days. Logistics always has a way of working things out, even if it's multiple tractor trailer trucks that you need to have removed.
Great, thanks for clarifying that one, and we'll just take one more here. You said it's okay to ship 13,000 pounds of waste in 1 month for an SQG. Wouldn't that complicate logistics and require more resources?
So basically, that 13,200 is your cap for 180 days, and believe it or not, it's easier to logistically to come to your facility once. Like I said, there's various size trucks out there for whatever amount of waste you need removed, and logistically it actually makes things smoother. Like we said, it's only one time that they're coming, it's one invoice, one manifest package, and so on.
Perfect. Okay, thanks, Eric. You can pick up with that next section.
Okay. So again, software. Why we want to use software. So manifests, LDRs, and packing slips can be uploaded into the software and tracked through its waste disposal journey. The software provides a calendar with dates, so examples of when a manifest are due to the state or other authorities. If you have not received a manifest from the end facility, the software alerts you and you can reach out for a signed copy. Again, because you need to have a signed copy on the premises. You can also upload inspection sheets for MAA and SAA locations, track compliance, and other regulation-related issues. Some quick benefits of software. Most software offers easy input of related forms and documents. PDFs and Microsoft documents can be directly uploaded, as well as manifests and other shipping documents directly scanned right into the system. Each document or manifest or LDR or packing slip is uploaded, is assigned specific dates for tracking and compliance, and the software is very easily navigated. So I just want to talk a little bit about, there we go, the different aspects of the software. As you can see, compliance calendar, inspections, obviously for doing SAA, MAA inspections, you can upload your firm's inspection report directly into the computer and then enter everything via the software, so there's no pen and paper kind of jotting things down. You can track your manifests. You can upload all your profiles, so you can track your waste. Inventory. You can upload your inventory of what you have for waste on in your facility, so you know exactly how many drums are in the waste area, or how many drums are on the floor, or how many drums you need to have removed. Documents, like I said, you can pretty much upload any document of importance to this, and it can all be tied into one regime. And then messages, you can set up specific messages for you that automatically populated. And there are many different software options out there. This is basically Triumph developed its own system. It's called Advise, and that's what we're talking about today. So for tracking manifests, different states have timelines for return manifest copies. Some states may not have any timelines. Advise can be custom tailored to fit your facility needs within your respective state. So this is like a manifest home screen. So each manifest, as it gets scanned in, the manifest number gets pulled up, the site where the waste was shipped from, different statuses. I know all the statuses here say archived. There are different actions like needing action, in progress. The compliance bubbles here, blue for being archived and all set, ship date, and then the date you got your return manifest copy. So different compliance bubbles, green, in progress, you still have time, still in compliant, orange, maybe something needs to be addressed shortly, and then red, something that might be out of compliance altogether. Then it also populates this compliance calendar, which you can enter multiple things into. You can enter, your waste logs, monthly fuel tracking, air source permit registration might need to come up and be due. Stormwater permit might need to be renewed, and so on. So there's a lot of different applications of what you can actually input into this tracking calendar. From MAA inspections, SAA inspections, the date you're required to ship your waste, a lot of different aspects to this. All right, we'll move on to a few case studies here, just so we can get some ideas in your head. Case study number 1. A weapons manufacturer was sending sandblasting and vibratory grit to the local landfill. We conducted a waste minimization audit, and the material was shifted to a reuse, which lowered disposal costs, and over 200 tons of material, 200 tons, was removed from going to the landfill. This material was mixed with other material to produce a reuse product for a road construction application. This assessment brought recycling and sustainability goals to fruition for the firm, and it made things go a lot smoother when it comes to disposal options for this one waste stream, because they were having difficulty getting it approved into different landfills. So by classifying it as a reuse material, we had a viable option for this waste. Case study number 2. Plastics manufacturer was sending waste purge plastic material to the landfill, as the material could not be recycled through traditional recycling outlets. Again, this type of plastic wasn't your single stream recycling. It wasn't your Coke bottles or your plastic wrapping from lunch. This was industrial plastic produced as a byproduct. We conducted a waste minimization audit, outlined a segregation option for the plastic, and opened up multiple recycling options, such as reuse in the plastic lumber industry, and some of the material could be reground and mixed with virgin product. So they had multiple plastic types, just all being dumped into a roll-off that they had on site, and they were sending that roll-off to the landfill. We introduced a segregation option, provided storage containers, and managed a full recycling program for the firm, reducing roll-off pulls from 3 to 4 times per month going to the landfill down to 1. So they were obviously they were throwing in this plastic with their regular roll-off waste from the facility, but by pulling it out and recycling it, the amount of times that the roll-off can was being pulled was 3 to 4 times a month. We dropped it down to one pull per month by having this plastic go out for recycle. And then case study number 3, a contract manufacturer using different solvents completed a waste minimization audit. It was found that all the solvent waste was very pure, but being commingled into drums. So they acetone, NBK, dichloromethane, methanol from different sources, from different outlets, all being combined into one drum, which is perfectly acceptable. They're all flammable materials, and that's acceptable. But by mixing everything together, you greatly reduce the recyclability of the material. So by segregating out different solvent waste streams, 3 of those 4 solvents were fully reclaimed, and waste costs were cut by 78%. Pretty significant number. So of the 4 solvents, excuse me, 3 of them were fully recyclable. The 4th had just a little too much saturation with contaminants. So by segregating all of them out, yes, it did increase waste streams from 1 to 4, and they needed a larger space to store the drums, which they had and which we were able to set them up with. We were able to make a new storage area. It was bigger and more compliant, and they could store their waste, and they had the availability to recycle 3 of their waste streams. So we'll move on to a quick summary, and then we'll move into a question and answer. So again, our key message here: how to use regulations and waste minimization options to improve your waste transportation and your waste disposal process to achieve organizational goals. Quick summary. Regulations allow for storage options. Use them to your advantage. They allow you to store your waste depending on your generator status. Again, small quantity, 180 days, large quantity, 90 days. Conditionally exempt small quantity generator up until you reach that 2,200 pound mark. Store it to save it. Waste minimization and recycling options help to reduce overall costs and help your organization improve sustainability numbers. So again, that waste minimization audit, come into the facility, do the walkthrough, take a look at the waste, take a look at the incoming product, discuss your sustainability goals, and then come back and give you a presentation on what we found at the facility. And then compliance and waste tracking software can improve efficiency, save time, and eliminate confusion. So, I mean, if you're having difficulty with keeping track of your return manifests, or you don't know when permits are due, all that stuff can be entered into waste tracking and compliance software. Automatically populates a calendar for you, automatically sends you alerts. Nice, easy way to track all of your waste. So that, we'll turn it to questions.
Great stuff. Thank you, Eric. We do have a few questions waiting in the queue. And if anyone, we've got some time here. So if you have a question for Eric, feel free to type that in about any of the 3 themes we've discussed today, and we'll address as many as we can. So let's start with a question here from Marie. She wants to know who is responsible for the cost of removal when a shipping company receives a DG shipment and the end user does not want the shipment any longer.
I'm not sure I fully follow that question.
Okay.
Can you just say that again, James?
Yeah. Who's responsible for the cost of removal when a shipping company receives I have a DG shipment and the end user does not want the shipment any longer?
So I think what they're saying is if something gets shipped to a transportation firm that may or may not be allowed to be shipped to them, waste is always the responsibility of the waste producer, basically.
Okay, great. Yeah, that makes sense. And if that doesn't answer the question, Marie, just feel free to type in something to clarify that a bit more. We can follow up with you directly later on. All right, good. So our next question comes from Graham. He wants to know if the software we reviewed offers any regulatory compliance information to the client, such as transporter and TSDF permits, certification of disposal, certification of liability insurance, security requirements, etc.
Currently, the software does have some of that in there. If you're requesting like an audit package of a disposal facility, your waste hauler should have that available. I know we have waste audit packages for each one of our facilities. All you need to do is just reach out and we can provide you that waste audit package. As far as like regulations, you can enter pretty much whatever you want to into the advised system, and it'll let any registered user of advise at your facility see what the regulations are, make changes, and track waste that way.
Great. And here's one that just came in from Sarah. What are the disposal recycling options for RCRA empty chemically contaminated sharps, if any?
Chemically contaminated sharps bins. So management of those, we provide what's called a reuse bin. So the bin is provided, we come pick up the waste, or if you have your own waste bins that you want to have recycled, they can easily be decontaminated through a sterilization process. And then once they're rendered non-infectious, if it's a plastic container, it can go to a plastic recycler, or if it's another container, it can be recycled. Other options, but the overall thing is you just have to render that container as non-infectious, which is easily done through a sterilization process.
Right. So it is possible, and I think that one of the misconceptions there is that it's not. So that's really good to know. Eric, getting back to the waste minimization assessments. We've got a question that asks, is this something that I can do on my own, or is it necessary to call someone in like Tramvert or another organization that does these?
So you can do your own internal waste minimization assessment from the idea of tracking how how virgin product comes into the facility, how it goes through whatever process it goes through, and then how it's determined to be waste. You can do all of that. As for figuring out if something's recyclable or it can be reused, it's a little more challenging to do that on your own, whereas your waste hauler might already have set up different opportunities for that, and it's kind of like a plug and play. So you provide the information, and then we can kind of plug in the waste and where it can go for you.
Okay, and a second sort of follow-up question is, what exactly are you looking for in the waste minimization assessment to determine viability?
It's basically what we're looking for. That's one of the reasons why we go through the entire journey of the material. So say you're bringing in acetone, virgin acetone, you're using it in some solvent application to remove whatever you're trying to remove. And then it comes out and it's collected into a waste bucket. So we're looking to see what exactly might be in that acetone. Is it something that is making it another hazard class? Is it something that's relatively benign and can be filtered out of the acetone? So that's basically generically what we're looking for. We're trying to determine what the overall contaminants might be in this waste stream.
Okay, and so let's at this point, it looks like we have one more. How long do contracts generally last if someone decides to use an organization such as Triumvirate after an assessment? I guess that would vary.
Yeah, so it varies on legality issues. A typical contract that we see is usually in the 3 to 5 year range, but there are other stipulations and formats for contracting that could, be used.
And it looks like we're keeping this one short and sweet today, so we'll do a last call for questions if there are any others out there. Got one more here, so we'll give that another minute or two if anyone wants to get out any last questions. You spoke briefly about bio-waste as a recyclable option. You said you would talk more about that. Can you just offer some clarifying points about what that process looks like?
Sure, yes, sorry about that. So your bio-waste, whether it be regulated medical waste, contaminated sharps, anything that you collect in a bio-waste container. So what we have developed is, again, a decontamination process where we render the material, not just the container, the actual material itself inside of the container, we render it non-infectious through a sterilization process. So again, like I said, a lot of bio-waste contains a lot of good usable plastic to contain the material, whether it be tubing or containers, different plastics. So by rendering everything non-infectious, you can then shred the material, segregate out specific types of bio-waste, and then you can grind them down further, and that's the good usable plastic from the bio-waste. Again, it's rendered non-infectious. It's a completely sterile application, and then that gets put into an extruder to make plastic lumber.
Awesome. And let's finish with this one, and then we'll get your final thoughts, Eric, on these topics. Well, we got two more. So does Triumvirate own any of the final disposal facilities that are utilized?
In short, no. We use multiple outlets for waste disposal, and that often gives us the upper leg because we have different options. Some facilities operate strictly incineration plants, so they only offer one type of waste treatment, or they may own landfills, so they have that type of treatment to provide. Triumvirate has multiple outlets for pretty much every waste stream out there. Actually, I misspoke. The one exception is that we do own the bio treatment facility. That is Triumvirate's own facility. It's out in Pennsylvania. And that's Triumvirate technology that we developed for this as well. So that's the only facility that we do own. Obviously, we have multiple TSDF facilities where we bring waste and transfer waste to go out to different facilities and such.
And following up on that with the bio-waste, this will be our last question. Does liability differ for bio-waste? In other words, is the generator still liable if it's not disposed of correctly?
That's something I'll have to get back to you on. I'm not fully versed in all the bio regulations, and they may differ from state to state, but that's something we can definitely look into and get back to you on.
Yes, definitely. So we'll get back there to Nicole. Okay, good. So let's move on to that last slide. I think we'll start to wrap things up here. Eric, do you have any final thoughts or points?
I just want to reiterate the fact that, again, regulations seem strict and daunting and, oh my God, they're this big burden. But if you read between the lines and find different ways to utilize the regulations to your advantage through storage, you can reduce your disposal costs from trucks coming to your facility as frequently, invoice charges, on-site time. So basically just use those regulations to your advantage.
Great. And at this time, we want to thank everyone for attending. Some really good questions, for participating today. As stated earlier, you will get a copy of this presentation to look at later on at your own convenience, a recording and the presentation, the slide deck. Also, we'll send you a short link to a survey. This will be included with the materials tomorrow. So take a minute just to answer that and let us know what you thought of today's webinar. Finally, we'll send out an offer within the next few days to talk about waste minimization and other ways to optimize your waste program. There's Eric's contact information if you want to reach out to him directly. Otherwise, you can reach out to an account rep or follow up to any of my follow-up emails. So I think at this point we'll close up. That concludes our webinar, and we'll see you next time. Take care. Have a good one.